I would like to invite none another, one and only, the person who does not even need an introduction, Shahzad Nawaz, Imagineer at Shahzad Nawaz Consulting and a filmmaker, to kindly come forward and start this panel discussion. This session is also very close to my heart because Shahzad Nawaz is my first boss in my professional world, and I have learned so much from him, which has helped me in professional and personal capacity. And the first ever event I ever hosted in my life was also curated by Shahzad Nawaz. So over to you now.
So seated with me is Sonal Dhanani. She is founder of Parinde Wellbeing and Development Foundation. Thank you for joining us today. Next is Mr. Shakil Mahapara. He's HR advisor and leadership consultant. Thank you for being with us. And then we have with us today Kiran Altaf, country head of HR at Syngenta, if I pronounced it correctly. That's the famous seed company, is that correct? It certainly didn't help me grow. So there are some of us who are still organic. And of course, last but not the least, we have with us today from an organization. If you could take one quick moment to introduce yourself, please. Beenish Altaf. You know, the best part before she starts about these conferences is, and I have my own law to this, right? So everyone has Murphy's Law, right? And my Murphy law is, Murphy is a cousin, and he's always around. And he showed up. So my apologies about this. All my panel deserve the correct introduction beyond the designations that they carry. How about we begin with compensating, and I give you a quick 30 seconds each so that you can introduce yourself, I think, more professionally.
Everyone hear us? Okay, hi. I'm Sonal Dhanani. I'm founder of Parinde Wellbeing and Development Foundation, and we work greatly on mental health, peace building, and gender equitable futures. Thank you.
Hello. Yes, I'm Shakil Mahapara. I have been head of HR for Sanofi Aventis, American Express, and currently I'm HR consultant and leadership advisor, and also advising to the OD aspects and packages.
All right, thank you. मेरा नाम किरण है और मैं सिंजेंटा पाकिस्तान के साथ HR देखती हूँ. I head HR for Syngenta. Syngenta is a company that is a world global leader as well as industry leader within Pakistan when it comes to crop protection, seed business, and so on. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Great. So I am Beenish Khan. I am heading talent and OD at Packages Group. And I've been working in the HR domain for over 15 years. Pleasure to be a part of this panel.
I don't know if you could hear the last panelist. You could? मुझे तो एक शेर याद आ गया इससे पहले हम शुरू करें महबूबा दी रम्ज निराली मन आखे मन पावे ए मलक सैन तालियां नु भी गल समझ ना आवे. So even I couldn't hear. So I just asked the audio guys. Usually we have monitoring in front so we can hear what we are saying. So most of this is going to be quite interesting. So I would like to now start. Now please bear with me. Most of the time I'm supposed to be the one talking, so it's going to be a test of mine and yours equally, where I'm supposed to ask a question and then listen. So I'll try to be a good listener, but before that, I must start with my preamble. Even the lady is just gone. She's given up on my speed. Wake asmana te urde panchi. Now karde risk zakhira. Now bhukke marde ne. Bande karde risk zakhira. Bande bhukke marde ne. So nearly 4 centuries ago, about 110 kilometers from where we are situated, Bhulle Shah was already reflecting on this thought that perhaps the divisions, the fears, the insecurities, and the exclusion is responsible for the human disconnect and something that hinders what we call the human coexistence. And what Bulleh Shah essentially said in this couplet is that this hindrance in the human coexistence is not natural. It is created by us, or people like us. So the defining challenge before the modern organization today as well is essentially the same. That being, how do we create environments where difference does not become distrust and where coexistence becomes stronger than the fragmentation? Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm afternoon to you, and welcome to the leadership dialogue of Interfaith Harmony in Action, respect without fragmentation. So today's workplaces are becoming increasingly diverse, but not in terms of the background, but also in terms of the identity, in terms of the values, ethos, personal ethics, and of course, the most important of them all, are individual experiences, or called the lived experience. So the challenge for leadership today is not merely representation alone, but the real challenge perhaps is coexistence. So our conversation today is not merely about diversity policies, because probably it's a cliche. It is not going to be just about the workspace or the work culture, because that is redundant. Our conversation today is about how human beings with different beliefs, identities, worldviews, and experience continue to coexist with dignity, professionalism, while not losing sight of a shared purpose. So we're going to get on with this, and I'm going to start off with Sonal Dhanani. And what we are going to do is we have been given 25 minutes, of which I've eaten conveniently about 7.5 minutes by now. And we're going to try and do as much as we can. So I'll start with you. You work at the intersection of peace building, mental health, social cohesion. So in your experience, what makes people psychologically disconnect from one another while sharing the same space? What do you think is that disconnect?
Thank you for the question. Yeah. So before we understand that why people psychologically disconnect in the workspace, we need to understand that, we are aware that Pakistan is a very diverse communities. We have a lot of intellectual, linguistic, ethnic diversity, and the corporate workspaces are actually part and the mirror of the same society. So whenever we have workspaces or the corporate places where people sit together, they work together, they're actually bringing the same mirror of the society which are there. So same layering shows up in the workspaces as well. And one of the reasons why people psychologically disconnect is when they feel that they are not seen, that they are not heard. And when there is an unspoken hierarchy in the workspaces where whose voices need to be heard first, who's going to start first, whose voice matter and whose silence go unanswered or unnoticed. So I think all of these kind of hierarchy which is built in the workspaces, which pushes people to feel like they're being labeled, or that if they belong to certain room. So the moment when someone feel unseen, when someone feel unheard, that's exactly where the psychological distance starts. And it's the same thing which we see in the corporate spaces as well, where people are sitting together, are working together, but based on the ideological differences, based on the political differences, based on the how our societal differences are showing up into the corporate exercises, be it hiring, be it promotion or anything. And I think all of these indirectly contributes towards making people psychologically disconnect in a workspace.
That's well said. Thank you. I'm going to just jump on and take one question for you, give you a question, Shakil Mahapara. With your experience across multiple countries and industries, how do organizations balance respect for individuality while maintaining the organizational culture? So within the realm of coexistence in a corporate space, how do you see it?
Yes, that's very interesting. Actually, in organizations who want to develop a culture where people from different faiths, different generations accept each other, I think it's important, first of all, there has to be some kind of policy written as to what will be the consequences that if you don't accept the other as people, what will happen. So it is driven through your annual appraisal as well. But that's one part. The main part is how leaders develop that or inculcate that into the culture, making sure that they show that by practicing themselves. Now, I've worked, for example, in an organization in Sanofi Aventus, as well as the American Express. Now, they operated in 100 countries. So they made sure that people from all countries meet up together in some other countries. So we saw a lot of people harmonizing and talking to each other or working on projects. So we had the Ukraine people with Russian people together working. We had the Indian and Pakistanis people working together. We had people from Iraq and also Israel and Iran people working together. So that was a given thing in that culture, that it has to be done that way, because we have to accept diversity, we have to accept people from all walks of life. So that's important, that from an organization aspect, it has to be driven from the top. If it is not, it will not happen at the bottom. So we work on individuals, we work on continuous drive on implementing our values, and the values of diversity and the values of respect.
Well, that's well said. Thank you. Now, we understand that this conversation is very relevant and important to us. And what better place than Pakistan as a country where we have true diversity in terms of culture, beliefs, customs, languages, and a society quintessentially living in multiple constraints of socio-cultural or socio-economic classifications. Kiran, tell me that you have worked in industries where teams are just as diverse as I've just said. They're fast-paced and highly performance-driven, right? So I'd like to ask, what leadership behavior, how does it contribute or help teams stay united despite being, fragmented societally, not necessarily in a corporate culture, but the existence of them beyond the office realm? How do you see that?
Sure, thank you. So in my experience, there are a few things that one has to bear in mind. Ek to, and I'll use mixed language, workplace पे आके कुछ standards आपको establish करने होते हैं. You have to make sure that you have a certain standard that you establish. There are certain norms that you enforce, and everybody has to come under that umbrella to work together in a harmonized manner. आपके जो differences होते हैं वो इस basis पे नहीं होने चाहिए कि आपका religion क्या है, आपका belief क्या है, race क्या है, language क्या है. That's part of your identity. That's who you are. So the idea should be that you bring it all to work. आप लेके आइए, you bring your entire self to work, but then we deliver together the results. तो जिस lens की हम बात कर रहे हैं वो ये identity based नहीं होनी चाहिए. That's what I firmly believe in. It should be beyond that. Leadership behaviors की अगर आप बात करें तो एक बहुत important और मेरे हिसाब से काफ़ी underrated behavior है वो है जी curiosity का. A lot of the times हम कुछ चीज़ें assume कर लेते हैं, we assume a lot. अच्छा ये तो फलां belief का है, ये तो फलां region का है, ये तो फलां ज़बान बोलता है तो ये ऐसे ही होगा. So we need to go beyond those stereotypes. Get to know people as they are, and then accept them, and then create a safe environment, give them the psychological safety to deliver the results together as a team. That's what drives everything. Apart from this, aapki respect ka element, that's another thing that you have to practice every day to drive results. Identity ko kabhi bhi mat chhede, that's who people are. But you go beyond it and drive a culture which is based on those 3-4 things that I just spoke of. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, going on over to you, Beenish. From an organizational development perspective, how much does a workplace culture influence whether employees feel accepted or isolated? I mean, for example, let's say in a large organizational setup with presence in regional silos, how does, does it become professionally adaptive or it becomes performative? Essentially, what I mean is that it is just reduced to mere sloganeering or catchy phrases or ideas, or does it go beyond that?
So workplace culture affects this enormously, right? And culture is not something that is just written in the policies, right? We do these nice things. We write documents, policies, where of course we talk about belongingness, psychological safety, respect. But culture is actually something that is lived through experiences, the micro experiences basically that the employees go through on a daily basis. So that is essentially where you get to see, yes, that the organization is actually an inclusive organization or not. So if I talk about the organization that I work in, Packages Group, of course, organization cultures are driven by the core values. And we have got 5 core values, and they start with care, respect, honesty, lead, and courage. So, the care and respect coming at the very start is actually the foundation of that. There has to be care, which is, of course, creating that sense of belonging for anyone or everyone who's part of the organization, and making respect as something which is a non-negotiable in the organization, right? So you could do anything, but of course if there's a performance issue, so that'll be tolerated, and of course worked upon, but respect is something that is not compromised upon. So that sets the basis of, a culture that is very inclusive, accepting of all beliefs, faiths. So that is something that we try to do. And of course, I'm sure there are other organizations that are doing things like for example, the people from other faiths become part of our celebrations. So we all become part of their celebrations as well, right? So we host things for people from other religions and faiths as well. As per the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics, if we talk about Pakistan only, around 97% of workforce is Muslims, right? But there is that 3% of workforce which belongs to other segments as well. So how are we including them in our decisions? How are we making them feel safe? I think in the morning we had talks where the first speaker spoke about fear. Do they have that sense of fear when they're coming to office? And there was another session we talk about, the speaker spoke about psychological safety, which is extremely important. Do they have that fear of speaking up? Are they trying to hide identities, that they have, right? Or some parts of their identities. So if you give them that freedom to speak about themselves, you become more accepting of the values that they have. That is essentially what makes, the cultures more inclusive.
Well articulated. Okay, so we are good in time. So how about I throw a general question to the entire panel, and you can answer me one by one. And the question is as follows. How can organizations ensure that inclusion becomes a daily behavior rather than simply an HR initiative? I mean, how do we keep it constant? How do we keep it going? How do we instill and invoke, within our corporate structures, something on a daily basis, not merely a week or a 6-month little dangling HR initiative? We'll start with you first.
Yeah. So I think to achieve a level where the things are inculcated in your behavior and not just as a performance, we need to understand that the tokenism in the policies of organization needs to be called out and needs to be removed. Till the time you are doing all the things, for example, there are organizations who celebrates Women's Day every year, but yet women are in the same organization are not able to report the harassment case or are not able to call out. So I think first of all, the organization and the leadership needs to make sure that tokenism is not there. Go for your analysis, go for diagnosis, go for adaptive leadership. Time is changing, and there needs to be acceptance that when the time is changing so frequently, there needs to be a change in leadership too, time to time. Anything which is going to be constant is going to harm any system, right? Because the things are no longer linear in our world, and things are political, and so that political shows up in the workspaces too. So for the workspaces to have a behavior where inclusivity or coexistence is not just another buzzword, there needs to be openness towards adaptive leadership. There needs to be openness towards letting the power go. And as soon as you let the power go and you allow system to restructure, that's where I think we are able to reach to the behaviors as well.
So I think, yes, this is very important that the has to be very clear from the top. And so I'm also an advisor at the packages group, and I think the message from the top, which is Sayyid Babar Ali and Sayyid Haider Ali, it's very, very clear. Two things: respect and integrity. If that is not there, the whole setup collapses. And that is what the whole fabric is all about. It stands on that thing. Then I think you need to continue this in your different programs, in your performance appraisals, in different projects. And when you make a project, especially if you're a multinational organization or an organization with diversity, you need to show that people from different backgrounds, different faiths get together and work together. So there should be no one group taking over the other group. You need to make sure that those projects, the team projects, the continuous improvement on that, it is there. So therefore, we don't have organizations where you have groupings by faith, by gender, or by ethnicity. So to kill that, it's important that we mix these people. Thanks.
For me, it's very simple. It has to be built into the design of everything that we do every day. You're right about it कि अगर हम वो सिर्फ वो danglers लगा दें, slogans लगा दें, CEO का message कहीं लिखा हुआ है, that's not gonna actually cut it. So it has to be part of the design, how we do things every day. We need to measure it. We need to have a direct linkage with the business value. That's how it's going to be it will actually integrate into everything. Employer brand, या जो उसको हम कहते हैं ना, just a performative check in the box, ये हो गया, यहाँ हम नजर आ गए, ये हमने कर दिया. This is not going to happen if you focus on this and not on that, on the design. So if you focus on the structured approach, embedding everything truly, that employer brand and everything, that will follow. That's something which is a byproduct of everything that you do. People will start looking at it on their own, and they will speak for you. They will spread the word of mouth. So that's how I look at it. Thank you.
While I agree with everything that's been said, I think it's essentially about three things actually. The first thing is leadership. What is the leadership thinking about these things, and what are they doing? Are they walking the talk? Yeah. Are they also they're leading by example? So is it something that they believe in? So culture also, of course, leaders in your top management, they're the architects, and they're those who are driving the culture. So that's something that is essentially important. The second part is that how you embed inclusivity in your daily processes, right? So for example, for us as HR, are we taking care of these things in hiring, in our promotion decisions, in anything or everything that we do in terms of HR practices, right? And the third thing is about, Kiran spoke about measurement, but it's also then about accountability and consistency. So is it something which is a one-off? Yes, because people talk about it and you're doing it, or you genuinely believe in it and you are holding people accountable for any actions that are not in line with the organizational philosophy, right? So that's very important.
Would you like to add something? Shakil sir? Would you like to add something?
Not really.
It seemed you wanted to say something. You have a post comment?
No.
Or
It's
you're just fond of having a mic in your hand?
No, it's like I was just going to say that some of the matured companies, they do some, for example, in America there are laws that if somebody raises a question or somebody raises a complaint about being, marginalized because of his diversity, this is taken very seriously, whether you're black or white, man or a woman, or from an ethnic group. So I remember one of my employees had moved to Canada in American Express, and I said, well, how many Pakistanis are there in this? He said, I don't know. The brown people, I can understand they are from subcontinent, but we're not supposed to ask from which country you are. We're not supposed to ask which religion you are. So it's banned in that company, in that office at least. So this is how you're supposed to accept the person as they are, not based on their ethnicity or religion.
Thank you. So we are cutting in just on time. I had a 3-minute long conclusion, but instead of that 3-minute long conclusion, I'd like to go with 1 minute of confession. And that 1 minute of confession is, sometimes it pays to be an actor. You guys are very lucky compared to me because I could not hear a single thing what my panelist was saying. Because what happens is, they're supposed to be monitoring, right? Those little cute speakers you put in the front so we can hear ourselves. So I tell you, it's my personal loss. I could not even pose a secondary follow-up question because I don't know what all you said. But being an actor in performing arts, I had to smile and nod and, oh, I get that. Yes, that's deep. Oh, of course. I am so sorry. I couldn't hear anything. It's embarrassing. However, what I do know is that because we were talking about diversity of all kinds, not just gender, but there's so many variants how we look at diversity today. So I started with Bhulle Shah, and I will end with Bhulle Shah, and the reason is simple, because he is telling us about introspection. Diversity or coexistence cannot exist without diversity. ओ भाई पीसी वाले भाई आस्था बोलो यार, ये पीछे केटरिंग वाले को. अच्छा, so I would like to end with Bhulle Shah. पढ़ पढ़ आलम फाजिल होया, कदी अपने आप नू पढ़िया ही नहीं. जाजा वड़दा है मंदिर मसीतां, कदी मन अपने विच वड़िया ही नहीं. एवें ही रोज शैतान नाल लड़दा है, कदी नफ्स अपने नाल लड़िया ही नहीं. भुल्ले शाह आसमानी उड़दियां फड़ने, जेड़ा घर बैठा उन्हों फड़िया ही नहीं. So it is all about introspection, because true coexistence will lead to that acceptance of the multiple facets of diversity, which I wish I could hear. But I'd like to follow up with a recording because that side could hear. I thank you for being a lovely panel, a power panel on leadership discussion today. You being such a lovely audience. And as for I tried, but I failed. But thank you very much. It was a pleasure hosting all of you here. Thank you.